Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Friday Night Young at Heart, featuring nursery rhymes, stories, songs, poems, Mother Goose, Aesop's fables, Lewis Carroll, limericks, larks, stories of the great operas, and such, to keep us all young at heart. I'm Father James DiLuzio. I'm a little late tonight because I'm participating as chaplain for a retreat offered to St. Paul the Apostle Parish, New York City, young adults. And so far the retreat's off to a wonderful, wonderful start. But before I went to bed, I thought I'd continue with our saga of Pinocchio by none other than Carlo Collodi. I'm going to give you chapters 2 and 3 because they're pretty short, and this will bring us into the heart of the beginning of the story. So we left off last time with Mr. Cherry having this wood that's talking to him, and he goes crazy. So it just so happens that at the beginning of chapter 2, his neighbor, whose name is none other than Geppetto. You were wondering when he was going to come in, right? Well, it's Geppetto, and he says he had this idea overnight in his sleep that he should make a puppet, and he wants to put on puppet shows so he'll have more of an income because he's quite poor, this Geppetto. And the Mr. Cherry thinks, oh, have I got a piece of wood for you to make out of this puppet? And so right after all that, he hears his name being called Polendina. Now, Geppetto's name is Geppetto, but the children in the neighborhood call him Polendina because Geppetto is bald, but he wears a blonde, very kind of yellowish wig, and it looks like polenta. If you know what polenta is, it's an Italian cornmeal mush. It's sort of like grits, but it's yellow. And Geppetto hates this. And we find out that both Geppetto and Mr. Cherry have terrible, terrible tempers. So Geppetto thinks Mr. Cherry has called him Polendina, but it's, of course, the talking piece of wood. How the wood knew that, I don't know. It's magical, and this is a fairy tale after all. So they fight and tear each other, and Mr. Cherry pulls off poor Geppetto's wig, and they end up boxing and wrestling on the floor, and things just kind of calm down. And they say, well, all right, look, I just want a piece of wood. And then once again, the block of wood calls Geppetto Polendina, and off they go. But finally, Geppetto takes the piece of wood home, and that's the end of chapter 2. Chapter 3, he begins to carve a puppet, a head, a body, torso, leg, arms, legs, and he's doing the face, and all of a sudden the piece of wood that's now the puppet starts kicking Geppetto in the shins. And so there's a big fight between them, and then the puppet starts running away through the street, and Geppetto starts calling after him because he'd given him the name Pinocchio. And but he forgot to give the puppet ears, so he's calling and calling, and of course the puppet can't hear him. except as you remember, at least Geppetto doesn't think the puppet can hear him because, as you know, the piece of wood seemed to hear and speak all on its own before it had ears and a mouth anyway. So when he finally gets hold of him, he wants to box his ears, and then he's forlorn to see there's no ears to box. So he's hitting the puppet, and shaking him and all this. Well, people think that poor Geppetto's abusing this puppet. Not sure. The puppet looks like a boy. So at the very beginning of chapter 4, which I'm going to leave you with, Geppetto's put in jail for child abuse. And this is the 19th century. That's pretty good. Because people knew he had a hot temper. And Pinocchio finds his way back to the house to sit it out and decide what he's going to do if he should get his father, his maker, out of prison. So there we are. continuing now the original story of Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great weekend, and God bless. Good night.